What about edible mushrooms, things like shiitake and those type of mushrooms? Is there any nutritional benefit to those things?
Enormous nutritional benefit. And there's been two also meta studies that have come out this year showing that the ingestion of mushrooms with elderly people over the age of 60, there's a 50% decreased odds of Alzheimer's like symptoms with a population of people consuming 3 mushroom meals per week. Now, they didn't specify the mushrooms. This is called a Singapore, but the mushrooms they're commonly eating are oyster mushrooms, shiitake, and shimeji. And maybe some other mushrooms. But that's one meta study that came out. There was a study out of Japan from Dr. Ikikawa at the National Cancer Center that found statistically significant reduction in cancers across the board. I think 162,000 people in this data set. And he was sent over to the Nagano prefecture to look for this. Now, these are edible and delicious mushrooms. Also, they empower the immune system. Again, signal from the noise, statistically significant reduction in overall cancer rates associated with a food. The division now between, foods and medicines is blurred. And yet it speaks to Hippocrates in Dioscorides, stating that let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. So it's interesting because physicians have been taught, this sort of monomolecular approach to medicine, and now we're realizing that these foods are essential nutrients for your immune system that downregulates inflammation.
It's so interesting that we're learning all this during our lifetime too. So you'd think that would all be established by now.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. We have a paper coming out in the next 2 or 3 days, maybe in the next week, and it's on turkey tail mycelium. They're grown on rice, and we were able to find out something that no one had been reported in the literature. The traditional Chinese medicine approach is that these are immunomodulators. They help the immune system, but they also are not inflammatory. When you have an immune response, oftentimes associated with an inflammatory response, blood rushes to the wound, you inflame, you have all these compounds that are being produced by the blood to suppress an infection. But you can overamp the immune system and have a pro-inflammatory response that can cause a lot of oxidative stress damage collaterally. And so the article that's just coming out with BMC, Biomed Central, Alternative and Complementary Medicine, peer-reviewed, we have found that the mycelium, when it grows on rice, bioferments the rice to then produce a unique immunological response that upregulates what's called interleukin-1RA and interleukin-10. These are anti-inflammatory cytokines. And so the mycelium doesn't do that, the mushrooms don't do that, but the mycelium is biofermented. The rice, like tempeh is transformed, or like yogurt comes from milk because of lactobacillus or acidophilus, and that transformation then makes a novel product. We have found the same thing, that the rice compared to the rice control has no anti-inflammatory properties. The mycelium, because of the extracellular metabolites, changes the rice into a unique immunological product that excites the expression of anti-inflammatory compounds while also exciting the pro-immune response. So it's a buffered response.